The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way in which we can cling to the usual service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor and reverence. By his grace, I may cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your fame be spread all over the three worlds. With the exception of your lotus feet. Tita Bhavana Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
She's not giving me any class. No. I have to jump in. I didn't go. He came very late yesterday from London Club, and he has 2 classes more today. So. And I asked Krishna Prema Prabhu is leaving for Chilila today. So he also doesn't have time. You sing so nicely, like a true Bengali. Would you like to sing Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu? Doya Koromore? Not so good. Nein, spielst du Harmonie? Ja, dann kann ich schon.
দয়া করো মোরে শ্রীকৃষ্ণ চৈতন্য প্রভু দয়া করো মোরে তোমা বিনা কে দয়ালু জগত সংসারে বিনা কে দয়ালু জগত সংসারে পতিত পাবন হেতু তব অবতারে পতিত পাবন হেতু তব অবতার মোসম পতিত প্রভু না পাইবে মোসম পতিত প্রভু না পাইবে আহা প্রভু নিত্যানন্দ প্রেমানন্দ সুখী আহা প্রভু নিত্যানন্দ প্রেমানন্দ সুখী কৃপা বলকন কর আমি বরদ কৃপা বলকন কর আমি বরদ দয়া করো সীতাপতি অদ্বৈত গোসাই দয়া করো সীতাপতি অদ্বৈত গোসাই তব কৃপা বলে পাই চৈতন্য তব কৃপা বলে পাই চৈতন্য আহসরু সনাতন রূপর গুণা আহসরু সনাতন রূপর বট যুগ জীব প্রভু লোকনা বট যুগ জীব প্রভু লোকনা দয়া করো শ্রীয়াচর্য প্রভু শ্রীনিবাস প্রভু শ্রীনিবাস রামচন্দ্র সঙ্গ মাগে নরোত্তম রামচন্দ্र संगमगे नरतम रामचंद्र संगमगे नरतम हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Panchatata Jaya Panchatata Panchatata Jaya Panchatata Jaya Jaya Panchatata Jaya Panchatata Panchatata Jaya Panchatata Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Srila Tara Shatta Shishimad His Divine Grace La Esi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Grantara Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Gaura Premanande Hari. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Das Buch haben wir. So we are continuing in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is Madhya Lila, chapter 22. And today we reading text 142. So again, sorry for those who came late. Marge, he came late yesterday evening, so he's not giving the class, as you can see. And he will be giving Tamil class and also at 4 o'clock. So for those of you who like to hear from me, please come then. So this is the chapter entitled The Process of Devotional Service. It's Mahaprabhu himself instructing Sanatana Goswami. Vidhi dharma chadivache Krishna Krishnera charana.
Vidhi dharma chadivache Krishnera charana.
Vidhi dharma chadivache Krishnera charana.
Vidhi dharma chadivache Krishnera charana.
Nishidha papacharetar kabunahimana.
Nishidha papacharetar kabunahimana.
Nishida papachare tara kabunahe mana. Vidhi dharma chadibache krishnera charana. Nishida papachare tara kabunahe mana.
Vididharma chadibhaje krishnera charana.
Vididharma chadibache krishnera charana.
Nishida papachare tara kabunahe mana. Nishida papachare tara kabunahe mana.
Vidhi dharma chadi bhaje Krishna charana.
Vidhi dharma chadi bhaje Krishna charana.
Nishida papachare tare kabunahe mana.
Nishida papachare tara kabunahe mana. Vidhi dharma chadi bhaje Krishna charana.
Vidhi dharma chadibache krishnera charana.
Nishida papachare tare kabunahe mana.
Nishida papachare tare kabunahe mana.
Vidhi dharma chadibaje krishnera charana.
Vidhi dharma chadi bhaje Krishna charana.
Nishidha papachare tara kabunahe mana.
Nishida papachare tare kabunahe mana.
Vidhi dharma chadi bhaje krishnera charana.
Vidhi dharma chadi bhaje Krishna charana.
Nishida papachare tara kabunahe mana.
Nishida papachare tara kabunahe mana.
Ladies.
Vidhi dharma chadi bhaje krishnera charana.
Vidhi dharma chadi bhaje Krishna charana.
Nishida papachare tara kabunahe mana.
Nishida papachare tara kabunahe mana.
Vidhi dharma chadi bhaje Krishna charana.
Vidhi dharma chadi bhaje Krishna charana.
Nishida papachare tara kabunahe mana.
Nishida papachare tara kabunahe mana.
Word for word translation. Vidhi dharma chadi. Giving up all regulative principles of the Varna and Ashram institution. Bhaje worships Krishnera Charana, the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Nishidha, forbidden. Papa Achare, in sinful activities. Tara, his. Kabu, at any time. Nahe, not. Mana, the mind. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Although the pure devotee does not follow all the regulative principles of Varnashram, he worships the lotus feet of Krishna. Therefore, he naturally has no tendency to commit sin. Purport. The Varnashram institution is planned in such a way that one will not commit sinful activities. Material existence continues due to sinful activity. When one acts sinfully in this life, he gets a suitable body for the next life. When one again acts sinfully, he takes on another material body. In this way, one is continuously under the influence of material nature. Purusha prakriti stohi bhunkte prakriti jan gunan karanam gunasangosya sat asat yoni janmasu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of material nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. Bhagavad Gita 13:22. Due to our association with the modes of material nature, we get different types of bodies, good and bad. One cannot be liberated from the cycle of birth and death, known as transmigration of the soul, unless one is completely freed from all sinful activities. The best process, therefore, is to take to Krishna consciousness. One cannot take to Krishna consciousness without being freed from all sinful activities. Naturally, one who is very serious about Krishna consciousness is freed from all sinful activity. Consequently, a devotee is never inclined to commit sins. If one is pressured by the law or obligations to give up sinful activity, one cannot do so. However, if one takes to Krishna consciousness, he can very easily give up all sinful activity. This is confirmed herein. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatang Vidang Tvang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitangscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda 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 Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, thank you so much for coming. So in this verse, we hear how a devotee, a pure devotee, gives up the regulations of Varnashram, at least sometimes, some. Although the pure devotee does not follow all the regulative principles of Varnashram, he worships the lotus feet of Krishna. So we know in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Chatur Varnam Maya Srishtam, that Varnashram is a divine system created by Krishna himself. Maya Srishtam, he created it. So how is it possible that a pure devotee who is supposed to serve Krishna is disregarding a creation of the Lord himself? And we know in the Vedic scriptures it's repeatedly said that Varnashram Dharma, the principles of Varna and Ashram, that's the laws for human beings. It is actually said that the only difference between an animal and a human being is Dharma. Otherwise, it's if that is not there with human beings, then a human being is like an animal. Because the human being and the animal, both they eat, they sleep, they have sex life, and then they defend. They are fearful. So that's there in the animal life, for sure, and also in the human life. But then the human is meant to add dharma. And dharma then influences all these different aspects of life. How we eat, how we sleep, how we defend ourselves, and how we have sexual intercourse. If human society doesn't follow any rules and regulations in this regard, they're actually considered to be animals. So how is it that a pure devotee doesn't follow Varnashram Dharma always, and sometimes actually breaks principles? So if we look at the purport of Srila Prabhupada, then he in the beginning makes the point that the reason for Varnashram Dharma is to protect the living entity from sinful activities. This word in the Bhagavad Gita, when we read from the very beginning, we get a hint of how people were trained up in Vedic culture, because Arjuna, he's constantly asking himself, am I committing a sin? Is this sinful? Is this proper? Is this improper? No, constantly analyzing his activities and being conscious that he acts in a certain way, it will give a certain reaction. How often did we speak about, we can speak before Krishna consciousness, maybe even now, how often do we think or speak, is this sinful, is this proper? Nowadays, if you use the word sin, it's very negatively behafted, connotated, negatively perceived. It's like, if you speak the word sin here in the Western world, for many immediately the Catholic Church will come up in their mind, and they will think about the Middle Ages where a lot of abuse happened, and they would warn people, this is a sin, you shouldn't act sinfully, and in this way they would project their power on people. So that's the negative emotion connected to this word sin. But actually, what does the word sin mean? Does anyone know of you? Literally. Every word has a literal meaning also. And then, due to our usage of a certain word, we maybe put on a concocted meaning on it.
In Spanish means without.
You mean if you say sin?
Without Krishna.
You mean the Spanish word sin?
Yes.
Yeah, it means without.
Sin gas, okay. Sin. Okay, yeah, without. In German the word is Sünde. Sünde. And I tried to look it up, but I didn't find any evidence, but apparently the word Sünde basically means that which misses the goal. Very, very nice word, no? You have a goal, and then something which is not hitting the goal, that's sin. Or in other words, that which is not pleasing to Krishna, to God, that is a sin. And if we look at this definition, it becomes a very nice word actually. Because we see there is a person who has a certain consciousness, and if I act in a certain way which is not pleasing to that person, then it's considered to be sinful. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he speaks about sin. In the 3rd chapter, he speaks about sin, and why? Because Arjuna is asking a very good question. So, first of all, this understanding has to be established that there is a God in control, and we are all it's a divine creation and there is certain laws, and if we act according to the laws, then we get pious credit, and if we don't follow the laws, then we get impious credit. That is the basic understanding we have to understand. And if this is understood, then one can try to understand the deeper aspects of that. And Arjuna, he asked a very relevant question. Do you remember in the 3rd chapter what kind of question he asked? He asked, O descendant of Vrishni, Krishna, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? So in other words, why does somebody who even knows about the law of karma, who knows what is considered to be good and what is considered to be bad, why does a person act sinfully? And what does Krishna say? Karma. Karma. Karma esha krodha esha. Rajaguna samutpavaha mahashano mahapapma vidyanam iha vairinam. It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into breath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. Krishna is using the word mahapapma, so we were speaking about sinful, and Krishna is saying this lust, that's actually the mahapap, the great sin, to be lustful. What is lust? What is karma? Can somebody give a definition of lust?
One really wants something for oneself. Really strong a desire to have something for his own sense gratification.
Yes. To have
not only sense gratification.
The desire to have something for oneself. So sense gratification, it can also be satisfaction of one's own mind or one's own ego. It can actually also be connected to another person. Meaning if I have let's say I have a partner and I want that this partner is happy, unconnected to Krishna, it is lust. Extended, Prabhupada used to say it's an extended form of lust. So basically sinful life means to be lustful. And Srila Prabhupada in his books he describes what is actually the essence of all lust. I want to read this to you. I didn't know that I'm going to give class today, but yesterday I was doing some research on Vedabase and I found some very nice quotes. Those who are asat, meaning those who have a material body, are very much attached to sense gratification. And the culmination of sense gratification is sex. So, karma is manifested in different forms: eating, sleeping, mating. So mating is the culmination of lust. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the also 3rd chapter, actually maybe we can just go through some of these verses, Krishna, because he's really bringing it out very nicely. So as fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. So this sin personified lust, it is covering the spirit soul. And Krishna giving 3 examples: one of the mirror, one of the fire, and one of the embryo, the baby in the womb. Why is he giving 3 examples? Those who did Bhakti Shastri, probably you learned it there.
The Sattva, Rajas and Tamas.
Yes. It's not that he whimsically gives these examples, but he's giving these examples to explain that lust can manifest in different intensity. So the fire covered by smoke, if there is a fire, and sometimes we have a yagya here, and there is a lot of smoke, so that smoke will cover the fire. That is compared to lust covering the spirit soul. Then the next example is mirror is covered by dust. We don't experience this so much because Dino is cleaning so nicely all the bathrooms these days, so they are always clean. But sometimes we notice when nobody cleans the bathroom, then the mirror will also have some dirt. So that's another kind of covering. And then the embryo is covered by the womb. When the baby is still in the womb of the mother, then it's covered by the outer covering of the mother. And you mentioned it's sattva, rajas, tamas. So which one is sattva, which one is rajas?
Sattva is fire covering by smoke.
Yes.
Rajas is mirror covering by dust. And
yes.
Tamas, it's ground covered by
tamas, the embryo covered by the womb. And do you understand why? Because it's when the baby's in the womb, you don't see the baby at all. If the mirror with dust, you actually can understand there is a mirror, but when there is a thick layer of dust, you cannot really get a proper reflection. And then the fire and the smoke, usually the fire is always in some way visible, but then the smoke is also visible. So when one is in sattva gun, then there is some lust. Everybody who's in this material world has some lust. And then it's compared to smoke. So there is a very fine layer of lust covering the spirit soul. When one is in Raja gun, then it's like the dust on the mirror, it's a little bit more. So the soul is covered more, meaning what is covered actually? Krishna is explaining. Avritam jnanam etena jnanino nityavairina. Thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. And Prabhupada translates as pure consciousness, but the word used by Krishna is jnanam, and jnanam means knowledge. So basically that knowledge that I'm a spirit soul, I'm eternal, I'm full of knowledge, I'm full of bliss, that gets covered by lust. We forget, I'm eternal, I'm full of bliss, I have knowledge, I know I'm a servant of Krishna. This is being covered by lust. And Krishna then, in a few verses later, he says, therefore, Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning curbed this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So that's the one has to do. One has to curb lust by regulating the senses. And that's what is being done, as described by Varnashram. So, Varnashram Dharma, it has 4 spiritual dimensions and it has 4 material dimensions. And why does it have different dimensions? Because the human society, there are so many different people under the influence of different modes. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai Ki Jai, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. some human beings, they are strongly under the influence of sattva, some they are under the influence of rajas, some they are under the influence of tamas. And of course, it's not very simplistic, it's very, very complex and mixed. Hare Krishna. And in order to facilitate all the different human beings in their, Prabhupada calls it the progressive march. Progressive means you make progress towards God, back home, back to God at Krishna. Sorry, Chandamoli Maharaj, he will give class later, he decided to chant. So Krishna, his desire is that everybody, every human being can make progress in spiritual life. And in order to facilitate that, he creates Varnashram Dharma. Chatuvan Varnam Maya Srishtam. Different stages. So then the living entities who are in tamas, they can do something which is proper. The living entities which are in rajas, they can do something in a way which is proper, which is good. And those who are in the mode of goodness, they can do something which is good, which is service for Krishna and for humanity. In its inert nature, tamas, rajas and even sattva, they are bad because they are disconnected from Krishna. But by the wonderful arrangement of Varnashram Dharma, even somebody who has a tamasic tendency, somebody who has a rajasic tendency can manifest that tendency in a way which is elevating him or her. And that is something which is very, we should note that Krishna is so merciful that it doesn't matter what kind of nature you have, you can engage it in a way which will actually help you to make spiritual progress. So all of these, we just heard that the one in tamas, the one in rajas and sattva, they are all covered by lust. Even the brahmana who is in sattva, he has a covering of lust. What to speak of the kshatriya, the vaishya and the shudra. So they are all having some selfish desire. And Krishna understands that they have to engage these desires in a way which is good. So the Shudra, the one in tamas, he's very lazy. He's very selfish. He just wants good food, sex life. I'm making a very basic description now. Just shelter, good food, sex life. So Krishna says, okay, you do this, you do it under the guidance of somebody who is more elevated than you. You do it under the guidance of a Vaishya, you do it under the guidance of a Kshatriya, or even a Brahmana. So the Shudra, he doesn't have any consideration of actually doing something for the greater good for society. He's mainly selfish in its very conditioned state. But then, by engaging that nature, he can support the higher stages. The Vaishya is very greedy, he's in the mode of passion, he wants to have money. So Krishna says, okay, you protect the cows, you cultivate the land, you make products, you make vegetables, milk products, then you sell them and you make money. And in this way you're protecting the land, you're protecting the cows, and at the same time you're providing the necessities for the whole human society. The Kshatriya is, actually the Vaishya is between, he has tamas and rajas. Then the Kshatriya is the personification of passion. He has a lot of desire, and because he has so much desire, he needs to control. So Krishna says, okay, you control the whole human society. You make sure they're following Dharma, and at the same time you're getting a lot of facilities. You're getting a lot of wealth, you're getting women, you're getting whatever you like. So in this way, they're getting something at the same way they're contributing. And the Brahmana, he wants to understand, he wants to get liberation. And so in Varnashram Dharma they say, okay, you study, because getting knowledge, only to get knowledge, is still a selfish desire. To attain liberation is still selfish. But Krishna says, okay, you study, but you have to share the knowledge. You have to give it to others as well. So that's a very nice arrangement how he did. He's engaging everyone. Now, just one point which I want to focus on in the end is we're hearing how sin, and sin is basically lust, and lust is bad. And we understand that we as a living entity, we are actually like in a prison house. In this same chapter, Prabhupada says, in the material world, the center of all activities is sex. That's the purport to the verse, thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust. In the material world, the center of all activities is sex, and thus this material world is called Maitunya Agara, or the shackles of sex life. In the ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within bars. Similarly, the criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. So this lust, it's imprisoning us in this material existence, and because of being imprisoned, we are suffering. So in Vedic culture, one will come to when one elevates in consciousness, he or she will come to the point to understand that this material existence is the cause of my suffering, so I have to eliminate that. And what's the material existence? It means we have a material body. We have to get free of the material body. We have to attain moksha. And so then there is many cultures in India where they strive for nirvana or moksha, meaning they just, all they understand is that my material body is a problem, I have to get free from it. And we heard about this example that we are like in a prison house. And if you think about it, what is actually this desire for moksha? This desire for moksha is like somebody doing a crime and being put into prison, and then realizing this prison house is so bad, you know, I'm suffering, I'm restricted, let me break out of it. That's what actually moksha means. That's why moksha is not considered a bona fide process. It's not a bona fide goal, it's still egoistic goal. You cannot, as a criminal, be put into prison and then realize I don't like it here, so let me break out of the prison. What actually happens is you will receive more severe punishment. But what is the way to get out of it? Let's use this example. Somebody's in the prison, did some crime, and now that person wants to get out. What can that person do?
Please the owner of the prison.
To please the king, the ruler, the one who made the laws. And how does he do that?
Money.
How do you please the king or the ruler? Service. And like if we take the prison house, let's say you go to prison, you will talk to one who works in the prison. What's actually the condition that somebody is being let out again? Yeah, reformation, no? They have these reformation programs to reform the consciousness. And then when they see, okay, he understood, he actually has a desire to be a good citizen, then he or she can go out again. So that's the way. And what does it mean for us? For us it means we have to reinstate ourselves in the consciousness of I'm a part of Krishna, I'm a citizen in the kingdom, and I have to act in a way which is pleasing to Krishna, to the king, and to all the living entities. So that's the simple way. And as a last point to get more subtle, because now we heard about, Krishna, actually Prabhupada himself, he explains in this purport why Krishna speaks about this lust, and he says it's in the mind, it's in the intelligence, it's in the senses. And Prabhupada says, why does Krishna do that? Because that's the enemy, so we are fighting against the enemy. We should know where this enemy is positioned. Like if you fight a war, you need a strategy, that okay, now they're attacking from this side, so I have to position myself in this way and fight in this way to actually fight the enemy. And one very important point which comes out in the Bhagavad Gita is in the first verse, Kama esha krodha esha rajaguna samudbhavaha, that this karma, this sinful activity, is born of passion, rajaguna samudbhavaha. Because it can be very abstract. No, I'm sinful, but how I'm lusty. How can I change that? It means I have to change my gunas. As long as I'm in Rajagun, then this lust will come more and more and again, and I have to change that. I have to change my association with the modes. So one thing very important to understand is that, like we gave the example before, that you are in the prison and you are captured by lust. That's what keeps you in this prison. Prabhupada also describes here. Material existence continues due to sinful activity, meaning lusty activity will make us take birth again and again and again and again. In astrology, for those who study astrology, there is a planet called Rahu. It is said Rahu is responsible for us to take birth. If Rahu is pure, clean, then you will not take birth again. And what is Rahu? Rahu means illusion, means ahankar, means desire. So this Rahu, this lust has to be completely annihilated. And so we are shackled by these lust, and lust means it's Rajagun. And that's like Prabhupada explains, it's like the bars in the prison house, which really obstructs you to get out. So unfortunately, this tendency of I want to break out, how does it actually reflect in the human being? It reflects as aversion. That, okay, I'm lusty, I perform certain activities because I want to enjoy, but now I understand this lust is giving me a problem, so I become averse. Let's say I'm lusty after women. No, I have sex desire. So then I understand this is giving me suffering. So what happens? I become averse to women. I become averse to food. No yogis, they don't eat anymore. I become averse to a house because they see that if I live in a house, I become attached. So they renounce everything. But the problem is that means basically, if it's not connected to Krishna, that you're trying to break out of the prison. So how is it actually being done properly? And also in Bhagavad Gita, I will finish with this. Prabhupada gives a very nice purport, and he explains what is the consciousness of somebody who has a material body but has transcended the three modes. When we think, somehow, I'm speaking of myself, the very faulty understanding of having transcended the modes means that, you know, somebody pops out of the body and flies in the sky back home, back to Godhead. No, that's maybe a very immature understanding, that you're completely free from all boundaries. You're not sleeping anymore. You don't eat anymore. No, because that's all considered under the modes. So this is again Arjuna is asking Krishna, and Krishna is saying the following. Arjuna is asking, how do we recognize a person who is not under the modes? And Krishna is saying something very interesting. He says, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active. A simplistic understanding, or a simplistic faulty understanding, could be somebody is not under the modes, so he doesn't experience attachment. She doesn't experience illusion. No, that's what we could think. But Krishna is saying something else. No, it's there, but the person is not disturbed by it. And Prabhupada, he explains in the purport, sorry, I just... One does not need this material body, and he does not need to accept the dictations of the material body. The qualities of the material modes in the body will act, but the spirit soul, the self, is aloof from such activities. How does he become aloof? He does not desire to enjoy the body, nor does he desire to get out of it. Thus, transcendently situated, the devotee becomes automatically free. He need not try to become free from the influence of the modes of material nature. One doesn't have to try to break out of the prison. One just has to accept. I did a mistake. This is also the mercy of Krishna. This is the mercy of the king that I'm in the prison. I feel regret. And that's the moment where one is liberated. The moment when we accept the situation of our conditioning. We don't fight against it. Now we often fight against, no, this is going on in my mind, this is happening with my body, and we fight against it. If we fight against it for Krishna, it's fine. But if we fight against it because we don't like it, it's a problem. Because again, it means that I don't accept the punishment given by the king, given by Krishna. And it's a very subtle thing. Meaning that the modes, they are working in our body, but being self-realized, we actually manage to step back. And even though it happens, no, Krishna himself said, it happens that we become illusioned, or we become sometimes overcome by passion. The spirit soul constantly sees that that's not me, and that's why the person doesn't act on it. And just to finish it up, here in this purport, Prabhupada, he quoted the verse, Purusha prakriti stohi, punkte prakriti jan gunan, karanam gunasangosya sat asat yoni chanmasu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of material nature. So we don't have to fight against the modes, but we have to stop enjoying the modes. That's basically the point. The modes are acting. As long as we are in this material world, somehow they are acting. But we have to become detached. Instead of becoming averse, fighting against it, we have to become detached. So I hope these quotes of Prabhupada, please, you can read them. They are really, I find if we take time, sometimes for one sentence we can take 1 hour, just meditate about it. A lot of revelation will come. And just as a last point, I think we should always emphasize the positive. So as we get lusty because of the gunas, and we know the lust is actually nothing else but the transformation of our inner love for Krishna. And we know that the goal of our practice is to get love of Krishna. So we can also understand that we, actually as a spirit soul, I cannot be lusty after material things. I need the help of the material nature. I need the guna. Rajaguna samudbhavaha. Without Rajagun, I cannot be lusty. So I need the help of Krishna's energy. Similarly, if I want to have love of Krishna, I need the help of Krishna, and more particularly Radha. I need the help of the energy of Krishna. So the material energy is helping us to become lusty after material things, but now we want to love Krishna, and we cannot, again we have to understand, I'm not the doer here. I'm simply the one who can desire, and then everything else will happen by the energy of Krishna, by the mercy of Srimati Radharani. She is actually the one who has loved Krishna, and if I have the right attitude, she will bless me to also become an instrument of exhibiting that love. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Does anyone have any comments? Feedbacks? Or any questions? Thank you. Then have a nice Sunday program. Take a opportunity, association with Maharaj. He will give class later. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Vancha Kalpatra Ki Jai. Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai.
Ich würde jetzt einen Sound live technischen. Ne, ich habe es wieder eingerichtet, dass man es natürlich zerstören kann. Und
Hast du Standard?
Das ist schön. Hast du programmieren? Kannst du sagen, okay, morgen
Können wir umstellen?
Das ist nicht alles auf Lips 4.
Nein,
So gerne nicht nur oben jeweils. Der Inland. Ja, da kann man nicht auch was machen. Du kannst Automatisierungen machen. Das sind nur warm, und dann tagsüber kälter und dann macht die das.
Ich weiß nicht.
Bist du nicht so inspiriert?
Nicht inspiriert. Okay. Also das kann man doch. Kannst du das nicht irgendwie programmieren, das ist einfach irgendwie. Es geht ja nur um den Farbton, oder? Und dann, also nach Radspruchartig schalte ich generell das Licht ein bisschen runter. Das ist so im Abendschwimmer. Nachmittags. Aber das macht man
Okay. Also ist es nicht alles so diese Sorts, das sind ganz normal. Nur diese Stillen in der Ecke. Und die Spiralen, die kann man auch dann steuern. Aber die sind demontiert.
Und ich finde es gut, weil es ist so was Komplexes wird so einfach, oder?
Ja, absolut. Warum nicht Moksha? Eigentlich
Weiß ich, wer die Idee gemacht hat?
habe ich es bis jetzt nicht verstanden. Stimmt. Okay,
muss ich den schauen, ob sie die Nacken nachholen.
aber das ist dann eigentlich
Stimmt, da kommt der
kann wahrscheinlich
Ja,
Säulen und so.
Ich wollte gerade sagen,
das sind ja verschlecht.
ich glaube, Gurwatsch hat dann auch gesagt, wie Dharma, Artha, Karma, Moksha ist alles nicht falsch in sich. Aber wenn ich raus will, um wieder ein guter Bürger zu sein, beizutragen, dann ist gut.
Also wenn ich lieber raus will und plündern und so genießen, dann kann ich
Ja, ich finde es ein bisschen embarrassing.
ja, und dann muss man vielleicht etwas machen. Ja,
Vor allem gibt es so Klassen so simpel, aber weißt du, wenn jemand was verstanden hat, und was sagt,
Ja, der tanzt.
das ist genau ein Beispiel.
Das sind schon cool.
Reinguck schon immer noch.
Gibt dann keine. Alles andere.
Ja, und der Navi hat eine gewisse Einschränkung, weil er befindet sich in der Welt, die macht er. Aber wie er damit umgeht, ist noch
Werkstatt gegangen, ja, die meinte,
Das schmerzt.
Das ist ja unfassbar.
Aber sonst wir sind unfähig. Und der Krieg,
das, was er
ja, man kann etwas sieht, das ist wie, sagen wir, die Membrane von unten vom Fuß, das den Fuß hält, weißt du, wie amortisiert, also von unten, das ist alles verbunden. Das soll alles sehnen und dann geht es nach hinten und hält sich auf den Knochen. Das ist dann gerade also hier so. Und dann hält sich, dann hast du Schmerzen, wenn es sich entzündet oder was etwas immer. gespitzt. Das ist nicht gefüllt. Ja, das ist
Und der,
aber er hat wieder gesagt, ich weiß nicht. Ich finde es wie der Sinnvolk-Sachen. Aber genauso wie du es heute gemacht hast, wirklich, es war sehr,
nicht das.
Nein, ich bin froh, dass ich diese 10 Minuten gekommen bin, vielleicht, dass ich zu spät gekommen bin.
Ja, manchmal haben wir so, ich kenne das bei mir, wenn ich lese oder Lectures höre, dann höre ich was oder lese was und ich habe es nicht ganz verstanden. Und ich habe mal einen Tipp bekommen, dass wenn ich lese oder höre, soll ich mir aufschreiben, was ich verstanden habe und was ich auch nicht verstanden habe. Mache ich aber nicht. Aber dann, das ist dann immer so unterschwellig da oder her und dann blendet man es aus.
Und dann kommt ein Moment,
wo man
einfach,
steht.
Ja. Ich liebe diese Aha-Momente, weißt du, wo du, ach ja, das weiß ich, Moksha, kein Problem, das weißt du, was es ist. Und dann kommt der, aha, das ist eigentlich das. Und ich liebe solche Momente, weißt du, auch bei der Arbeit in der Krishna Consciousness sowieso, es ist wirklich, als ob dir Krishna geben würde, dass du siehst, wie, verstehst du, wie er alles arrangiert hat, so wie Mr. Maharaj gesagt hat, wie alles arrangiert wird, das alles wie ein kleines Uhrwerk.
Ja, das hat er hier gesagt, oder in Anker?
Nein, hier. Wo er über das Buch in den Nacken ist.
Ah ja, klar.
Dass nur Gott nicht hat wenig genug Zeit. Er kann manche Sachen, aber er kann nicht alles wie kontrollieren. Und dann dass sie nicht verstehen, wie gut das alles eingestimmt hat und dass jeder Atom alles wirklich so. Ja. Und das sind diese Momente, wo ich dankbar bin.
Ja, du hast schön gesagt, wie Krishna, und in der Bhagavad Gita sagte Krishna, ich bin das Wissen und die Erinnerung. So, wenn wir diese Verwirklichung machen, ich sehe das auch immer, das liebt Krishna, der jetzt persönlich, jetzt war der Moment.
Siehst du nicht?
Ja.
Weißt du so? Und wer hat das gesagt? Und dann mache ich auch einmal, dass was immer passiert, dahinter alles Krishna sehen, Krieg, schlägt.
Ja.
Also, das ist der Vers, was hat irgendwo in jeder Situation direkt, indirekt du kennst es.
Ja.
Dann stelle ich mir einfach vor, weißt du, wie jetzt so ein Faunfeder von hinten hat, einfach so in solchen Situationen, wo es komisch wird, dann einfach eine Feder dahinter. Und das hilft. Und in diesem Moment, weißt du, ist es wie, okay, ich muss es nicht verstehen. Was immer, dann kann ich es annehmen.
Ja.
Sonst würde ich ausrasten, etwas länger machen. Und so ist es, ja.
Ja, das ist auch ein interessanter Punkt, oder das ein Devotee sein heißt in diesem Bewusstsein verankert zu sein, dass Krishna weiß alles, er ist Wissen, ich bin einfach ein Teil. Wenn er möchte, dass ich verstehen weiß, ja, sonst, ich weiß, es hat schon seinen Zweck oder seinen Grund, warum es so ist, wie es ist.
Und das ist das, was das Leben leicht macht. Ist wirklich der Kontinuum, weißt du, wirklich.
Aber wir haben den Kopf haben.
Ja, oh ja. Ich habe lange mit ihm gestritten. Ja, Dezember.
Und jetzt hast du aufgegeben.
Ja, das ist stärker, was soll ich sagen? Wirklich. Das ist
Ich empfinde ihn als ein Sadhu oder jemand, der nicht auf der Plattform vom Ahamkara-Ego ist, sondern und dann, wenn er es halt sieht und spürt, ganz subtil. Und das ist halt für die geliebte Seele nicht so. Es ist so, ich denke das ja immer, wenn du vor so einer nahen Gemeinschaft ist, für so eine Person, dann sieht man auf einmal irgendwie die eigenen Dinge besser, so das Ego von einem anderen. Weil er so klar und hell ist und dann kannst du
Ja, das ist eine schwierige Situation. Meine erste Reaktion, immer wenn ich höre, dass er kommt oder dass ich ihn sehe, ist, können Sie.
ja.
Ich kann mich sicher nicht. Es ist einfach gut für uns. Und wenn er sagt, ich muss mit dir reden, dann bin ich immer, okay. Ach, was immer und wie immer, du kannst das annehmen. Weil es ist wirklich nur für unser Bestes. Es ist nicht, weil jetzt sein Glück sagen. Das fällt mir darum. Letztes Mal haben wir vor 2 Jahren gekocht. Und dann haben wir gefragt, und was machen wir? Und er so, ja, ich habe das versucht.
No.
Weißt du, und ich als Frau und so weiter, ich kann kochen. Und dann kommt und sagt das und das ist, weißt du, nicht das Problem, das ist so.
Ja, das ist
gut.
Es ist gut. Das ist sehr gut. Bist du heute da?
Ja, bitte mal, bin ich so gut. Ja, das ist okay. Okay.
Bist du schade?
Jetzt? Aha, jetzt ist es. Ah ja, okay.
Ich weiß gar nicht, ob aber du zum Teil.
Ich weiß nicht, im Sinne.
Weil ich muss hier noch
ja.
Schuld.
Step on, step on.